sure if we're going to be running it or if the client's going to be doing it, but in either case, traffic is traffic, so let's give that, it's worth a discussion. So how are we driving traffic to the crowdfunding platform, to our campaign? We're going to do this in two primary ways. There's lots of different ways. You can use social media as an obvious choice, but let me show you what is the most effective. And then really it's an email outreach campaign right from the onset. And we're going to specifically email two distinctly different groups of people. The first is going to be our current fan base from our list. And then the second group of people are going to be those people who are basically people who we don't know. This is going to be our cold list in which we're going to compile. Now, the cold list is going to consist of two different groups of people. One being people who are influencers who are familiar with us. So in other words, I might have a relationship with, say, Jan over at Rolling Stone magazine, and I've spoken to her a couple times, and we seem to connect pretty good. So I'm going to reach out to her, and I'm going to let her know about the crowdfunding campaign that we're doing. I'm not going to ask her to donate. I'm going to ask her to share that with everybody that she knows on social media, or ideally to write about it. And that's really what we're looking for here, is for bloggers and for journalists and for anybody who would write an article about our campaign so that they can spread the word to their circle of influence. But then aren't there so many more people who don't know who you are, right? So that's unfamiliar, and that's a list also that needs to be compiled. Unfamiliar there. So for the people who are familiar with us, how many people is that? Well, we don't know. It could be 10 people, it could be 100 people. I'm not sure. Now, the unfamiliar, how many should that be? That should be no less than 100. Okay, anything less than 100 is a failed campaign to begin with, and they have to be qualified. These have to be people either in the music industry or in any vertical market that can support either the music or the cause in this example, okay? No less than 100 of those people. We're not sending email out to, to the President of the United States because we think he's influential, right? And he probably really isn't anyway, so maybe he is, I don't know. So, but the point is this, it has to be people that make sense. So 100 minimum. Okay, and then max is 300. Okay, do we need to go over 300? No, because we've found that over 300 really doesn't, offer much in return. So 300 would be the max. 200 is usually that sweet spot. So, and you could do a mix, right? So if we're, like in this example, we're doing, say, music and a cause, right? And so maybe we're sending 100 emails out to people in the music industry, and then maybe we're sending 100 emails out to influencers that would support the cause, or some combination thereof to hit that 300 mark. No less than 100, no more than 300 emails going out. Now up here, as far as the people who are familiar with us are concerned, or no, up here we've got our current list, right? And of this current list, we've got two groups of people. These are people that we don't know, right? They're unfamiliar. They're just on the list, right? Because they're interested in you, but you don't really know them by name. But then you've got family and friends that would support your cause. So that's a list too. Okay, so this is all, think of this in one spreadsheet, okay? So we've got one spreadsheet right here. This is a Google Sheets right here, or you could use Excel, but I mean, if you're still back in the 90s, but otherwise, no, just kidding, but I prefer Google Sheets. All right, this is a spreadsheet. And then at the bottom, we've got our tabs, right? And each tab is a new listing, right? So the first one is going to be those people. This is going to be familiar family and friends, okay? And then this is going to be our list, okay? Each tab is going to represent a new sheet, right? And then we've got the people who are familiar influencers, right? And then we've got the unfamiliar influences. And this is the list that's going to be 100 to 300 big. right there. Okay, and then we're gonna use software to email them, not once, but multiple times. We don't want to be a pest, so you have to do this right. You have to use a specific formula. There's probably variations of what we do, but it's important to know that you go in with a strategy to know what the subject line is going to be, what the content of the email is going to be, because we want it to get opened, we want it to get clicked. This is how people are going to know that a crowdfunding campaign actually exists. This isn't the only way, but email outreach is really the primary component in which we're going to be using right from the onset in order to drive traffic to that campaign. Okay, and that's going to happen in phases, right? Because it's a 4-week campaign, right? So we want to make sure that every week, you know, we've got something scheduled to go out, and this has to be planned before you launch. This is a huge mistake that people make when it comes to crowdfunding, is that they launch the page and they don't have a strategy in place that's going to drive traffic and ultimately, you know, get them to their goal, to their destination. So in 4 weeks, what happens on week 1? And then what happens on week 2? We'll discuss this, but it's important that you have to know what your plan is each time, how many times to contact each group of people and how you should contact them. And you're not soliciting donations, you're soliciting shares. They'll donate on their own. But, you know, everybody should be sharing it, because, you know, if these people are supporting you and it doesn't cost them anything to share it, then wouldn't that be a better idea? You know, I would rather reach, you know, 1,000 people that they're connected with than to reach just the one person that I'm emailing. So when we come down here and look at the fact that we're only emailing 100 to 300 people, right? But each one of those people has a circle of influence. And so when you get that article written with somebody that has, you know, 1 million subscribers, that's when your crowdfunding efforts really start to take shape.